Welcome to Full Scope, a podcast designed to analyze the games that we love, the headlines and music, and the movies we can't forget. I'm your host, Wellington Burns, and I'm joined by a familiar special guest, Micaiah Albert, president of the Chiefs fan club. Do you still keep that title? Do you still keep that title? Is that still
Oh,
yours? I don't know.
loud and proud,
A lot of
man. It doesn't matter how much we
doesn't
lost
matter. You guys are
by.
going to be back. But
You
thank you so much for
can't
being back on.
bail. Yeah, no, you can't bail just because it gets down. That already happened with the Bengals, so at least it was to a good
Exactly.
team. So
Exactly.
I just
Have.
did not want to see a repeat of Tampa Bay is what I was most unhappy about with that Super Bowl is basically I had flashbacks.
I know this
I
is off
couldn't I
topic.
got the cold sweats,
I
man,
know
and
this
it's
is off
like,
topic, but I think I texted you. I was like, is there any chance this might end up being Tampa Bay against? And
you
you're
did
like,
literally before the game.
and you're
And I'm
like,
like
no,
at halftime,
Wellington,
I'm
what are you
like,
talking about?
dang, Wellington literally
I was just thinking,
literally threw
I was in
out
my
like a
nerdy, I was in
passing
my
tank.
nerdy.
It
It's
was
like, is there
so
any way?
annoying. I'm like looking at it and I'm like, this is actually worse than Tampa Bay because we don't have the excuse that the offensive linemen were out. This is worse than Tampa
It really
Bay.
was. I was stunned. I was like, with the men's ministry at my church, we were all together, and we just all were like jaws dropped. Like we just couldn't believe that it happened like that.
Yeah, just
Crazy
to
game,
get
but.
punched in the mouth like that. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, we have a lot of topics to get
That's
into to
that's
this one.
yesterday's news.
Yesterday,
Yep.
current news, moving
Onwards
forward.
and
Oh,
upwards.
exactly. We have a lot of topics to get into for this one. Obviously, NFL free agency, March Madness just started. The full slate of games started today, and obviously some NBA topics. But to start off with the Vikings and Aaron Rodgers, it was reported earlier this week that they're no longer interested in pursuing a free agent quarterback Aaron Rodgers, and it also this past Wednesday, JJ McCarthy, that's the guy they want to be behind fully. Obviously, Sam Darnold, won 14 games with them. But I really think this is one of those situations where they're like, hey, we don't want to just go all in for a guy who's declining. I think Aaron Rodgers, he's not the same guy. Obviously, he's one of, you always talk about how I'm biased with Aaron Rodgers. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks, but he is declining. Like he's no longer that same guy. And I think this was a very clear, like, hey, let's build for the future. Let's get ready for what's next and not just stay stuck in the now. What were kind of your thoughts on the Vikings decision and just, what they decided to do going forward with JJ McCarthy?
Yeah, I would think it was inevitable just because of the year that Sam Darnold had, that somebody was going to be able to pay him more than what the Vikings were willing to pay.
Yeah.
You take a guy that high with JJ McCarthy, and you're going to have to start him sooner or later. That's just the era that we're in. You draft a quarterback high, he's got to see the field soon, for better or for worse. And in my personal opinion, and a lot of times for the worse, just because they're thrown into the fire, into the deep end, and some guys can handle that. And those are the ones that rise to the top, and a lot of guys can't, which is why I think we see so few
Mhm.
really solid quarterbacks. Although one could argue that we're in the golden age of quarterbacks. So I mean, it's one of those odd things
That is
where
true. Yeah.
it takes a while to mature, but like we have an all time high where, like, at least on the AFC side, the whole conference is littered with quarterback talent, at least
Mhm.
potential, not
Yeah.
necessarily always comes through, but potential. In terms of not signing Aaron Rodgers and pursuing that, we're this close from the Brett Favre arc. We're this
I was about to
close to the
say, yeah,
Brett
very
Favre
close.
arc.
He
It
was
would have
getting,
been hilarious.
he's really like channeling Brett Favre energy right now.
Literally, it's like the skill set, the talent, the all
Yeah.
time
And then
recognition, and
41,
then
around
just to follow that
41, he's
same. Yeah, exactly. It's like that would have been pretty funny, but
yeah.
I can't blame the Vikings. I struggle too because I'm like you. I've always been a Rodgers fan a little bit myself. He's kind of the before Mahomes was flashy, he was the flashy guy.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, Brady solid, the actual winner. But in
And
terms
then
of the eye
Mahomes
candy, it was
outflashed him. Mahomes
Rodgers,
outflashed
and then Mahomes
him.
outflashed him. My brother would still debate you with that in terms of
Yeah.
Rodgers prime, and
I can't
I
go there.
just,
No, I'm sorry.
okay,
I've
whatever,
just seen too
sure.
much data. I've seen too much data with
Yeah,
Mahomes.
exactly. It's like, have we not seen enough of Mahomes doing
Yeah,
things that
I'm
nobody else
convinced.
can do or has done? So, but
Yeah.
anyways, I don't know. Again, I can't hate them because coming off the injury, he just has looked horrible,
Yeah.
really bad.
Very bad.
Just by the eye side of it.
Yeah.
Eye test. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for saying. So, but like if you look at his numbers, they're not awful. They're kind of like middle of the pack. I'd have to double check his numbers, but for the time that he played, it's okay.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what he would be able to do with a better team than the Jets. That just was everybody that was picking them as like Super
didn't
Bowl
make any
picks,
sense.
and
I
I
was
was
like,
like,
why? What are
I'm
you
like,
guys seeing that? Yeah,
this team is garbage. It's
yeah,
like Aaron Rodgers has got to have, especially after his several injuries started stacking up and he kept losing mobility.
yeah.
It's like he is like starting to become like Brady. He's still got potentially the arm talent, but he has got to have an offensive line. What are the Jets like absolutely atrocious at? Offensive line. And so
Exactly.
it was just doomed from the start, in my opinion, just because they never were going to be able to get enough offensive line help in there to be able to work it out. And it just, I don't think it ever materialized. There is just fraught with different difficulties. Again, he's kind of a has been in terms of a player of mine. I think he's just gone too
Yeah.
much down this diva road as a quarterback. It's very reminiscent of what we see with like a lot of wide receivers that get in their
Yeah, he's
head
channeling
and they
like
become
Terrell Owens
self-obsessed.
energy. Yeah, he's channeling like heavy
Yeah, and
Terrell
it's just
Owens.
like, dude, you're so self-absorbed that he's
Yeah,
gotten so many people fired to like excuses for the poor team performance that ultimately falls on his shoulders.
hmm
And it's like at some point you can't keep passing the buck. At some point the buck stops here and it's got to be with you, Aaron Rodgers. So I don't blame the Jets for wanting to move off of him, and I
yeah,
don't blame the Vikings for not really wanting to get in the Aaron Rodgers business just because at this point and stage and age of his career, he just
not
doesn't
the
look
same
like he
guy.
has much left in the tank. So it's to that point, it's like um, Favre is the edge over him that because at least Favre still looked like he could play at a semi
I was
high
gonna
level.
ask
Now
that. Yeah,
again,
I was
to
gonna
be
ask
fair to
that.
him, again Brett didn't have I think nearly as catastrophic as an injury as an Achilles a year
Mm,
ago for Rodgers to be removed from that. But I mean, Favre did have pretty much the blown up shoulder, if I remember correctly,
he did.
for a good chunk of his career, especially on at the end. But again, it just depends on the injury.
Mm,
And just to me, I think in today's age, at least, you can deal with a blown up shoulder a little bit better than you can immobility as a result of an Achilles injury, just because you have to be able to move and navigate the pocket and manipulate it so that you can make throws on target on time
mhm.
and then also be able to create something special on occasion. Whereas you can deal with arm mobility because you can just alter the routes that your receivers
Yeah,
are running. So um, I'm not sure where he's going to land. We'll talk about the next team that might potentially be in
I
the Aaron
think we
Rodgers
know. I
business
think we know.
here. We'll
Steelers.
see. If it's that team, then
I mean, we might
I
as
mean
well
it'll
we
be
might as well get to it. We
interesting.
might as well get to that next topic
Yeah.
because
So
I personally
Minnesota,
think
I think,
that
is rolling with JJ. So I think that's
yeah,
where it is for better
because
for worse. It'll be interesting to see what JJ can do.
for sure. Because I mean, Russell Wilson, he's still a free agent. Pittsburgh Giants, they appear to
How
be
wild is that? We're gonna have Russell Wilson
insane.
and Aaron Rodgers on the same team in
That's
theory.
gonna be crazy. That's gonna be
That's
like who would have thought like back in those Seahawks Packers days on Sunday night when they were just slinging it around like hey your career is gonna end with battling each other for
your
it's gonna
careers were intertwined and they were bound to end that way, just
bound
not
in
in the
that
way you
way.
thought it would.
Just insane. That Seahawks comeback that once happened.
Oh,
Forget which year. It's just so many
the ref
crazy
boycott
things.
year where it was
Yes,
absolutely screwed. My brother will never forget about it to this day.
it's insane.
The offensive and defensive who caught it.
Exactly.
The refs
And
making different signals in the back of the end zone. Crazy
but
times.
I really, this franchise obviously they're really interested in signing Rodgers. I do think that's the team that. I mean, why would he want to go to the Giants? Like, come on, there's no reason he'd want to go to the Giants. Like, in
Huh.
terms,
Let
in
me
terms,
change out one New York team for another
yeah,
one that
like,
has
come on,
basically
like,
all the
that's
same issues.
horrible. Like,
Bad offensive line,
at least
okay
with the Steelers, you have
defense,
Mike Tomlin, who's like,
nobody's at wide receivers.
yeah,
Yeah,
at least with the Steelers, you
exactly.
have Mike Tomlin, a guy who's gonna get his team to the playoffs.
Well, well, is that
What
all
about
that's
Mike
cracked up to
Tomlin?
be anymore?
What about?
I've won the playoffs for like almost a decade now. So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, your calling card has been that you don't have a losing season, but what have you got
But
to
what have you done in the
show
playoffs?
beyond
Yeah,
the
what
season?
exact? It's
That's the
almost
thing with
giving like
Tomlin is
who is this
you remember
the
last year they were
Bengals?
starting to talk that did the Steelers need to deal Tomlin. I heard a couple of
Yeah, I
major
have heard
sports
some rumors
writers that
about
were
that.
like they should trade him. It's like you can do that with a coach, and we haven't seen that done in forever. But it's like they were thinking, you should trade him and get some capital because he could bail out an absolutely garbage team and build them up from mediocrity and or even terrible play to where they're actually respectable. But at this point, he seems like he can't get the Steelers over the hump anymore. And I've
All it
talked to some
is
Steelers
just
fans that I'm friends with, and
they're
they're
frustrated.
questioning him
Yeah.
too. It's like exactly they're frustrated because you've had basically, and we're not joking, Wellington, basically 15 years of mediocrity.
Mhm.
That is just like oh, we're barely over 500, cool. Or that one random year they were like 13-3, but nobody believed in them. And sure enough, the playoffs came and they got bounced by the first team that they played.
Yeah.
So it's just he's used up to me his cachet of his calling card of being good in the regular season. And again, I don't want to get too off topic because I know we're supposed to be focusing Aaron Rodgers, but again, I think I
It
think
goes right in
it's
hand.
more
Yeah.
a symbol to me of like how much the Steelers are in the danger territory of being a historically great franchise, but it's turning into a has been franchise in
Oh,
terms
for
of
sure.
more recently that they're average. Like we can call them average or good. Well, I can go good
I,
because if
yeah,
you're
I'd say
able to
like
be
right
winning
above
every
average. Yeah. Yeah, right
yeah,
above
above
average.
average maybe,
Yeah.
kind of in that above average to good range.
But that's
But
all
when
they're
you
gonna
can't
be.
win a
They're just gonna be
playoff game
stuck
for a
there. Yeah.
decade,
They're
like
just gonna be stuck
what do
there.
you want your fan base to do
Yeah.
if you can't win in that amount of
That
time?
like
So
what does that do for Aaron Rodgers to hear, hey, you're gonna make the playoffs and that's it. You're gonna be out in the first. Like he has no like. There's nothing
he
really
has
that
no interest in
appealing.
that
Yeah.
either. Yeah, which
There's
is why the
nothing.
Jets was always interesting. Why he wanted that, like
I
why the
didn't get that.
Jets of all
I always thought
places?
it was
It's
gonna be the
like
49ers.
the
I was always going to the
spotlight,
49ers. Yeah.
the 49er, that's a great, interesting thought process
Yeah.
and analysis of what could have been if he'd gone 49ers. I
Because I
mean,
mean, Kyle Shanahan, he would have worked
that
some
would have
magic with
been
you. He would have worked some
crazy.
magic with you. You had
That,
George Kittle.
that I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that's some Super Bowls,
That's
man.
Super
If that's where he went
Bowls.
instead.
My goodness, man. That
I
that
remember
just
when he was going to move that was shocking that he was going there and
yeah,
not. But again, I think that was a large part that the Packers had something to do with that. They didn't want to trade him into conference, so they made
which
sure
makes
that he
sense.
went to
Yeah.
AFC.
Yeah.
And then by the
It's just
time he had
crazy.
his freedom again, it was that window had closed basically because the 49ers were on the Brock Purdy train. So
Here's my thing. So when we look when we think about Aaron Rodgers, he's got one Super Bowl. He's obviously one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. But how will his legacy be remembered? Like, do you think the fact that he only has one Super Bowl is gonna hurt his legacy? Because I mean, Eli Manning has two, and I'm not gonna put him above Aaron Rodgers all time. I mean,
no,
I'm not gonna
yeah,
do
all
that.
time
I'm not
no.
gonna do that just because you have two Super Bowls. I don't care if you did beat the Patriots twice. Like outside of those seasons, you didn't have like you didn't have like great
Very,
regular
very
seasons. You know what I mean?
average.
Rodgers has had
Yeah.
so. What do you think about like what his legacy will be in terms of just having one Super Bowl?
I mean, again, because of stats, it won't be better than Eli. But I mean, in like our collective memory, Eli might be better than him because it's one of those things where like you're right for the knowledgeable people, you didn't have great seasons, but you beat the at least
The
at this
GOAT. You beat the
point
GOAT.
right now,
Yeah.
you beat the GOAT.
Twice,
The
yeah.
only reason that Brady doesn't have isn't perfect in Super Bowls,
It's because
basically,
of you.
is because of you
Yeah,
and
and
Nick
Nick Foles.
Foles. But basically,
That's crazy.
you have 60% of the reason that Tom Brady is not perfect
Yeah,
in Super Bowls. And so like again in the public mind's eye, again, you might think that Eli's better, but stats wise it's not an argument. But I think it does personally. Like to have had all the teams that he did with Green Bay
and
and to
just only
never
have
get over the
one.
hump is just like
Yikes.
that's again, I know it wasn't always his fault. There was that year that they
That
played
Tampa Bay,
Arizona
yeah.
and their defense could not do anything. Like Aaron Rodgers had like two or three different Hail Marys to keep them alive
Hmm.
and in that game, and then they just melted down on the last drive when Larry Fitzgerald takes like a little dump pass for like 70 yards. And so there's years that are definitely not his fault. Some of the Seahawks games that you mentioned, not his fault in particular. He played well enough to win those games, but the defense didn't come through. Um, but at some point, like you can't blame it all on that. Like Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, they've had to overcome poor defensive performances and they've had to gut it out
Yeah,
when it matters. So unless you're Tom Brady, most people have usually had to overcome mediocre to poor defensive performances. And that's
hmm,
not meant. That sounds like I'm sliding Brady. That's not. It's just that's the beauty of having to be being able to play with Belichick for all those years is
oh
that you
yeah.
didn't have to, you didn't have feel like there was the same amount of pressure on you as some of these other guys because you knew the other side of the ball was going to be taken care of. So you may have shaky starts, but you knew in crunch time that they weren't getting what they needed to. So you had freedom to operate, and that
Yeah.
just I think allows you tremendous freedom. But just for a quarterback of his caliber and what he's going to retire with stats to only have one again is gonna look a little bit tarnishing on your resume. I feel like
I mean, but
again they got close
if
a
you
couple
go down the
times,
Dan Marino route, he
but
didn't have any, and some people consider him one of the
and
greatest.
Dan
And
Marino's still seen as one of the best. So I mean, you can
yeah,
exactly if that's your argument, then it's like. But again, Marino historically again is praised for
different
all the
eras.
talent,
I
but he
know.
gets
Yeah,
held
different. Yeah,
from. And it's different eras, but also just the fact that he didn't win one, and now fortunately Aaron has one. But in a lot of conversations, that's what gets Marino held back. Is everyone points to if it's one of those you pick one of these quarterbacks, then a lot of people are like, well, he didn't win a Super Bowl. So like
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave Marino on the outside looking in for a lot of cases, even though he had all the talent in the world and he was a quarterback ahead of his time.
Hmm.
But I think that a lack of rings and bling on your resume is gonna look a little off. And again, he has the MVPs.
Yeah.
He has the iconic plays. He's got the iconic celebration too. So he's got a lot of stuff in his bag to be able to hold serve. But again, just having one with all that goes along with that just seems a little bit of an underperformance. So I don't know where he'll finish all time. Probably top 10.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he's got to be top
But
10. He has to
he's
be.
got to be top 10 just because of stats. So,
Yeah.
but
I
again,
just,
I would say
it's
on the bottom
befuddling
half
to
of
me how many
that.
times they've had like home playoff losses, like home.
Yeah.
It's so crazy that he just never gotten to another one at least. It's just that's the
One,
befuddling
especially when you're playing in an area that is historically really hard for people to come in and
and
win,
win.
win
Like
in
San
Green
Francisco
Bay
won multiple
because it's
times in there.
cold.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll never
I'll never
understand why
understand
that
that really.
happened. Warm weather California
And then
team
Tampa
comes
Bay comes
into
in and
the
wins.
frozen
It's like,
tundra. Exactly.
like why are these teams
Yeah.
so comfortable winning? Like these warm weather teams just comfortable winning in your
Tampa's a little bit
stadium.
different to me
But
because I mean, on
yeah,
offense, Brady and
Brady, he
Brady's
was
used to
comfortable,
that.
and
Like
yeah,
that
he's
didn't.
like
That is like
he
he's
was a
used to that
disguised
weather
warm
from
weather quarterback. He was a
Foxborough. So,
disguise.
like this is
Like
what
this is
I'm
like
used to,
Foxborough. This
man.
is the Foxborough guy. Like,
Exactly. This is
um,
normal.
exactly. Getting to the Bengals, obviously they were in the headlines majorly with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Chase's deal, Chase agrees to a 4-year, 161 million deal that includes 112 million guaranteed, and then T. Higgins agrees to a 4-year, 115 million deal that's guaranteed for the first 2 years. And obviously this is great for them, but I think the Bengals really messed up by not addressing their defense and yeah, an offensive line because it's like that was the issue. It was never the offense. The offense was always good. It was just like why aren't you guys addressing what's actually like I mean when I mean benefit them, I mean like they're able to enjoy their money, but I'm saying the team is like I think they
Yeah,
have major
yeah. The
issues.
team.
You know what I
Okay,
mean?
so
It's
you
like
meant them specifically. Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm talking about
Absolutely.
the individuals like they're able
Yeah,
to enjoy it, but I'm saying like the team is like it doesn't get better. It's just like yes, you got two
they're
studs, but
cooked.
they're cooked. That's what I'm saying. Like they
They
are
are
actually
so.
they are
It's
like
like
that made
everyone's
me see
like,
like oh you're
"Oh,
not
the
challenging.
draft will hit that," and I'm like,
No,
"Dude, you
you just
better hit home run after home run after home run, and not just like, oh, good. It better be like
yeah,
you
better be out of
have
this
to
world.
find the diamond in the rough every pick
They better dig deep.
because,
They better
and
dig
even
deep.
if you do." And even if you do, I still think you're cooked because your defense again, they're counting on the new defensive coordinator turning it around, which again, that's putting a huge unrealistic
Huge.
expectation on him after you're because the thing is, Wellington is like your two guys on the edge, one retired, and there's no way now that you've paid these two guys that you're going to be able to afford the other one. Like
No.
I guess they moved the franchise tag onto him, but
Yeah.
like that's not going to get cheap over time. So like that helps you out for 1 year. And plus the that was your only thing that you were able to like that was what you had to have happen on defense was hope that those guys got home. And now you lost one of those edges and Hendrickson's going to be basically needing somebody on the other edge
Yeah.
because your secondary is booty. It's
Yeah.
not good.
It's
It's
so bad. Like
trash. It's like
yeah,
Joe
it is
Burrow,
literal gutter
Messiah,
ball.
save us, please, because every game they played, it was like offensive, absolutely shootouts.
Yeah.
And
And that's the thing.
when
You're
Joe
also
Burrow's been
putting it
dinged
on
up
Burt.
like he
Yeah.
is,
Then he's gonna have to put
it's
himself at
like,
risk.
dude, this guy's been banged up for his entire career, basically. And you're basically saying, hey, it's going to continue to be all on your shoulders, Joe. Take us to the promised land. That is
That's what they
not a
told that's
recipe
what they
for
told him this offseason.
success.
Hey man, it's not gonna get any easier for you. Like it's not gonna get any
I
easier.
saw I saw a thing today of who would you choose out of the draft, but it got me thinking in terms of comparisons, just regardless of who you would choose. But like I think Wellington, we're in a danger zone of area of we're gonna see another Andrew Luck situation of
Oh my
all the
goodness, yeah.
talent in the world, amazingly awesome player, has every right to be like one of the all-time greats, and he's going to get cut down in his prime because the organization's cheap or they didn't make the right moves and decisions, and they have no protection, and they're going to absolutely get the crap beat out of them their entire careers, and their bodies are literally going to break in front of us and force them to leave the league. It was
Yeah.
so heartbreaking seeing Andrew Luck, who in my opinion could have been like an all-time
All
great if
time.
he'd just been
Yeah.
on a decent team. Like talk about a guy with unlimited potential
Mm.
and a guy who he's kind of the opposite of Aaron Rodgers in my opinion in terms of he like made the most out of his limited opportunities that they got because of all of the average mediocre teams and he elevated. So that's
Yeah.
what the Bengals are hoping happens and I think that history is not going to be kind to you. And to spend, again, I know they're awesome players and they're super talented, but just to tank all of your money in a couple of wide
That's
receivers,
what I'm saying. You're
it's
putting
like
all of it. You're
I
putting
saw this too. They can only one of them can get the ball at the time. It's not like it's a running back where you can use a decoy at least, and like that they could have used, or maybe like a tight end who could have been multifaceted. It's two wide receivers, and they're again, they're both fantastic and they're both a little bit different style, but only one of them can have the ball at the same time. And
exactly.
and
You can't
again,
share it at the same time.
it all boils down to me is you are not protecting Joe Burrow, and he's the guy who's supposed to have the ball in his hands to be able to control and to win. And I don't see how you're going to be able to do anything on the offensive line. Like again, they got a little bit better as the year progressed, but not by much because Burrow was still banged up most of the year. And so I just I think we're in an era where I don't understand all these wide receivers getting this big money. Again,
Mm,
I'm not trying to be a hater, but it's just like wide receivers are. I think we're seeing the flip of what it used to be with running backs in terms of running backs are a dime a dozen. You can go
yeah.
and find an amazing one. Now I think we're starting to see that flip as we saw with Derrick Henry and then Saquon in terms of if you get the right guy. Like, sure, there are the majority of running backs are going to be. You can get a guy in the draft and he'll be able to pop and gel well with the team. But like the pinnacle of them are going to push you over the edge with running back because of all the things that they can do. Whereas I think we're starting to see the flip of that with wide receivers. It used to be the god tier wide receivers were worth keeping and paying all that money because they could really make an impact. And I think that now we're in an era where it's like you get amazing wide receivers like littered all over the
All the
draft.
time.
So
Yeah,
it's
all the
like
time.
why pay a wide
Why put it on
receiver all that
them?
money? You
Yeah.
saw it with the Chiefs. They cut Tyreek Hill loose again. Now part of that was because they put unlimited trust in Patrick Mahomes. But
Mm,
again, I think that's what's kind of leading to the decline of what we started in this conversation. I know it was off topic, but again, it comes full circle and is
yeah.
involved in this conversation that quarterbacks are so good, they can elevate mediocre to average to good wide receivers and make the good wide receivers great, awesome, the
Mm,
average wide receivers good, and the bad wide receivers kind of like average just because
yeah.
of ball placement and their talent. So just paying all that money in a wide receiver, I get you were gonna have to do Jamar Chase because him and Joe Burrow are buddies, but
That was
Jamar
eventual. Yeah.
that one was eventual.
The T
But
Higgins
also
one.
here's the other thing, Wellington, timing. You waited until all these other deals got done to where you're gonna have to overpay Joe Burrow. They waited too long to get his deal done to where basically he had to get top money over these other guys because of his value. You waited until Jamar got paid, or to
Yeah.
pay Jamar until I think it was it Jefferson that
I
got
think it
his
was
new deal
Jefferson.
that
Yeah.
pushed that over.
Yeah.
And so it's like I want his money because I think I'm just as good. And again, he can have a claim on that on his best days. I don't think like overall, but he's got a claim in terms of being like neck and neck in terms of that high level of wide receiver.
Right.
So now you're paying extra with them, and then same thing with T Higgins, and he's gonna want a lot of money, and then he got a lot of money as a result of it. So
Sure.
I just think you should have used T Higgins as a commodity. There's people that would have been able to or would have been willing to trade, I think, with him. So the Bengals are just an absolutely poverty ownership group and franchise that I think is just doomed for the rest of their existence to be
They did this to
with
themselves
Joe
though.
Burrow.
This
It's like
past offseason.
we're gonna be amazing and we're gonna be awesome to watch, but we're never gonna actually win anything. Like again, they're gonna be kicking themselves for years if they didn't win that Super Bowl against the Rams because I think that's the closest that
That
you're
was a
ever
close
going to
one they're
come as
gonna
a
get to.
Bengals fan. I think that's as close
You
as you're
get
ever going to
past
come to
Kansas
sniffing
City.
it,
You
unless
get
something
yeah.
changes.
Yeah,
Exactly. You
you
caught
get
Kansas
past
City
Kansas
on
City.
one of Patrick Mahomes' worst performances of
Yeah,
his
and you didn't
career,
capitalize. You
and
did
you
not
didn't
close the deal.
capitalize. You let Matthew Stafford come in with a new team and
And
capitalize and
again,
beat you.
I think that was a
So,
really good Rams team. That was a really good Rams team, but
oh,
still,
absolutely.
that was
We're
the year you
about to
got to
see
do
how
it.
good it is again this year, I
Yes.
think.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I love what the Seahawks are doing in the
It'll be
offseason.
interesting.
Yeah,
I think they kind of got white version of what they already had at quarterback. So I mean, I think Gino and Sam are. I think
yeah.
Gino was elevating play and like the talent. What I'm worried about with Sam is everyone is like so head over heels, and it's like they're not realizing it's like that Minnesota was pretty littered with talent, right?
Mm, mm,
Hawkinson and um not Jamar, Justin Jefferson and the kid out of UCLA that was really good, and even their third string that they got from like deep in the draft it ends up being pretty good. So it's like in terms of talent, you've got a pretty host of talented roster, and now you go to Seattle, and it's like I don't know if that's
mm.
going to be quite the
It's
same
that
level. So we'll see.
different.
I would be happy to be wrong because I would love to see that division. I would love to see Seattle competitive again, and
Be
that'd be fun
competitive, yeah.
to see them. So, but it's going to be interesting because it looks like the 49ers used to be the standard for that division, and
Oh my
they're in
goodness.
trouble.
They are in
And
like
so I
heavy
think it's
trouble.
between the Rams and the
Yeah,
Seahawks. I think it's the Rams to lose at this point until the Seahawks can prove it to me. But
definitely.
that's just because the Rams
It's
have
gonna be
proven it,
interesting. It's gonna
and
be interesting
Stafford,
seeing
and then
Cooper
getting
Cup.
Devontae Adams doesn't hurt.
Yeah, definitely not. It's
Yeah,
gonna be
Cooper
interesting
Cup
seeing
go to
Cooper Cup
Seattle,
against
but again, I think that's
against the
time to move
Rams
on
again.
there.
Yeah.
So I can't remember, was it you? I can't remember if it was you or another friend that like was really excited to see him with Seattle.
Mhm.
And still thinks he's got Josu left in the tank. We'll see.
I think, yeah,
His numbers have
I'm
been
not saying he's
declining
gonna be
year
as
after
good. Yeah.
year.
That
So, but
2021 year was his peak. Like, I mean, they were just cooking that year, but
you can't
I don't,
top
can't
that
top, you
like
can't top
Triple
that year.
Crown.
Can't top that
So,
year for
but
sure.
he's gotten significantly worse since that year. That's what worries me for him, the
Injuries.
injury history, and
Yep.
that he's continued to make a steep decline each year. So, but again, he's still going to have some fuel left in the tank. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do. What I'm excited with Seattle is really to see Jackson Smith and Jigba like take that starting role and see his dynamicism be able to come to the lead and see what they can do because he was really great as the third option
Oh
in
yes.
Seattle last year. So
Uh,
we'll see what he can do
yeah,
as a starter,
before we go to
the
break,
main
I don't
option.
think you've been on the last time since Travis Kelsey announced it. But how do you feel about Kelsey coming back, running it back with you guys? Coming back with the squad. I mean, I know you were expecting it. We all were. He wasn't gonna go out like that, but
You can't go out like that.
you
Like you,
cannot
you
go.
got to at least
That's
make it
sad.
look
That's
good. Like you can
got.
retire on a loss. I know that
Yeah,
we all
but
say
not
you got to
like
go
just
out on
getting
top,
your butt
but
kicked.
not like absolutely getting mollywopped and absolutely mopped off the floor. No,
Yeah,
so
no.
that's not surprising. And honestly, he needed to be better. Like I thought we were going to get more. He'd been so reserved during the season, so
Some of
I
those
don't know. We'll
drops were
we'll
just
see.
like insane. It was
Yeah,
weird
it was one
drops.
of those things where again it looked like everything in the Super Bowl that happened. It's like everything just seemed off.
Yeah,
Everybody, it just looked like they didn't come to play, which was what was so disheartening about the whole thing. Is you knew that team could play. I know everybody taunted about. It's like, see, this is what we're talking about all year, and it's like,
like you guys
um,
did not expect that.
it's
Stop,
like, no,
stop,
you
stop.
didn't. And also, did we not just see them run through the
Exactly.
AFC
Again,
with that same team? So
it's like
don't
how
just
Nick
act
Wright
like
says.
Philly was
It's
this
like
magical voodoo doll that
yeah, it's
just
like how
came
Nick
in,
Wright
even though
says.
there was some voodoo going on in
There
New
was,
Orleans.
there
If you
was,
saw some of that stuff, that
there
was
was.
crazy with
It's
some of those
weird.
fan
But as
videos.
Nick Wright said, the season starts for the AFC Championship. That's when the season starts for them. The AFC Championship. Like,
It
it's
is
so funny
the
how you guys accept
Arrowhead Invitational,
the
everybody,
Arrowhead
until it
Invitational.
is different. It's like even last year, it's like we took a 1 year hiatus so that Baltimore and Buffalo could feel good, and
Yeah,
just so that we
they're
could
right
finally
back,
prove that
right back.
Mahomes can win on the road, so that we can shut up all
Exactly.
the haters on that junk that they're like, "Ooh, Mahomes can't win on the road." Okay, be quiet, be
Sure.
quiet. It's like
It's gonna
whatever,
run through them again.
whatever.
Run,
It
run
is
through your
still,
stadium.
and literally, I'm listening to, and again, I know this. We got to go to break real quick though, but it's like Wellington, and this is why I have a humbling moment in terms of my hatred for the Patriots for so many years because it's like this is really what they felt like. It's like everybody saying this is the year that they're gonna suck and be in the garbage. It's like I'm hearing it again this year. I had to listen to Rich Eisen and I can't remember the guy's name that's on there, but he's like the biggest Patriot stand, and so he finds every reason that he can to absolutely hate on the Chiefs because he doesn't want to see a dynasty be
Yeah.
replicated and follow up that's just as good, if not better, than what the Patriots had in terms of longevity. But he's just like, oh yeah, the Chargers and he's like, oh, and the Broncos are going to win that division. They're going to knock off the Chiefs. I'm like, give me a break, man. Like
It's
just
almost like how
because
Charles Barkley talks about talk about how the Warriors were gonna fall off every year and they just never
it's
because he
just
was
like,
jealous.
dude, I understand they've been making some nice moves and props to them, but until the king has been
Yeah.
enthroned, the king is still the
They're still
king.
on the
So it's
throne. Still
like
on the
I don't
throne.
understand this doubt. So
And
my
AFC, you guys
apologies
haven't
for
knocked
all
them
of
off
you
yet. The AFC hasn't knocked them
Patriots.
off yet.
It's like ever since the 1 year with the Bengals, it's
Yeah,
like
it
y'all
hasn't happened.
still have not. It's like Josh Allen, cool. You still have not
Lamar
proven that you
Jackson.
can beat. We own you in the playoffs. Like
Yeah,
Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, you're supposed to be the next two best guys, but
doesn't
like we
happen.
we own you literally. So like this is a moot point. You're exactly right. It doesn't begin until the championship game, just
Yeah.
because we
So
get basically a practice
yeah,
game.
listeners, we're not taking any game seriously until the AFC Championship when they'll be right back there.
You guys already know. It's just the way it is. The Chiefs can look garbage. They've looked
Doesn't
garbage the
matter.
past two
Doesn't
years,
matter.
and they still made the Super Bowl. Okay,
Yeah.
four out of
Are,
three out of four
do you think this is
years.
gonna be like how motive? Like I feel like
Oh,
I
they're
feel
going
like
to be
I feel like
motivated, I
Mahomes is gonna be in
think.
a revenge mode.
There's going to be blood
Like,
in the
he's gonna
eyes,
be
like,
just he's gonna look.
and and
I
everyone's
think you guys are
like,
gonna like. I think you're gonna like this season because he's gonna be like so
oh,
motivated.
100%. I think he's going to be motivated. He's going to get Rasheed back, and hopefully Rasheed looks good. We had something special, I think, cooking up when he was starting to get his legs under him his rookie season, and then he has that really bad injury this year. So that's a year of what could be another year of, the speed demon Xavier Worthy getting in the Andy Reid system, and then
Yeah,
we re-signed Hollywood Brown. So I'm super stoked. And then Juju decided to stay too.
yeah,
So we're gonna be super
it's gonna
deep
be
at the
good.
wide receiver core. I'm happy with that. Travis Kelce will still be there with the veteran leadership. So, and we starting to adjust the offensive line again. So it seems to be like that's what happens. The Chiefs end up getting embarrassed in the Super Bowl. Retool the
Just
most
yeah,
vulnerable
rebuild
unit.
that. Yeah, rebuild
They've
that.
they've lost a few players in the secondary, but that's just what happens over the course of the period. Is you got to let people go. So I'll hope to see
It's
that
not
that
like the
short up.
Bengals
But
secondary. It's not like the Bengals sick.
exactly, it's like at least we'll
It's not
still
how it
be
looks
good.
like
We still got
that.
McDuffie, so we're good. We're good at are good at our corner spots. We'll just have to plug in a couple of safeties and hope that the guys we've been training step up to the spot. And so and you still got Chris Jones, so
Oh gosh.
we're
They're,
that
they're-
defense is still going to be
listeners,
good,
listeners,
man.
they had one off year. They're not slowing down anytime soon. They're not slow. You hear this, you hear this. They're just coming back. They're just retooling.
Retooling. It's the same thing with the Patriots. They lose, and it's like, okay,
It's okay.
how
It's
can we
okay.
fix the
Can't, can't,
weaknesses?
can't win them all. Can't win them all. Like Red Auerbach said, can't win them all.
No one can be perfect. We
Exactly.
got to let you guys get a few.
Yeah, make you help the morale. Help the morale.
Yeah, exactly. Ratings got to stay up. We got
Exactly.
to get the bump on the ratings back up for the next year.
For sure. We're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back.